How can you become a more comfortable dater? Hi there, men's dating coach Harry Wilmington here from introvertdatingsuccess.com. And on today's show, you're going to learn the 7 ways that you can become more comfortable as an introvert to be able to approach and date women. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button as well as the little bell icon to be notified of when I post up new daily videos. Also, be sure to go to the website to get my free ebook, Texting Like a Boss, as well as clicking on the tip jar tab to show your support, the links of which can be found at the website as well as the description below. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, as an introvert, dating can at times feel like a very anxiety-ridden task that will oftentimes make you feel like you don't want to go out there and do anything at all. I mean, for one thing, it's having to be around new people. It's having to learn them. There's the feeling that comes with, being an introvert. Is that going to be something that turns women off? And a variety of other things that for an introvert can cause a lot of overwhelm and anxiety to happen. And I don't want you to be that way, because the reality is there are women out there right now that will date you. And there are plenty of women that actually want to date more introverted men because they feel like they're going to really be connecting with them on a more deeper level. They're not going to want to go out as much because they're going to want to mostly be inside and be alone, either by themselves or with them. And so there actually is an area here where you can actually be yourself, be a comfortable introvert, and get women. But if you're not used to that, you might not know what things you need to do in order to feel that comfortable. Because like I said, if you're an introvert that hasn't really dated a whole lot to this point, it can be a very anxiety-inducing thing. And I want you to feel as comfortable as possible. And I want you to get into the headspace that women actually do want you, do want to date you, and will find you attractive. And so here are my 7 laid out tips for you to be able to get more comfortable as an introvert when it comes to meeting women and dating. So the first tip is this: you want to make sure that you are planning shorter dates. I think one of the reasons that you may be overwhelmed as an introvert dater is because you feel as though you have to be out with the woman for 3 or 4 or 5 hours. And then you get into your head thinking, well, what am I going to do for that amount of time? How am I going to come up with conversation? What am I going to do to be able to entertain her for that long time of period? And that's not the thing that you're used to doing. And I can happily tell you that you're going to actually get more success with women if you plan shorter dates. Because when you're on longer dates, what can happen is for those first couple of meetups, there's the chance that you could possibly say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, or it just seems like it's dragging on and on. And this is what can happen when you're meeting new people, especially as an introvert. You're thinking you kind of just want to stick. You already don't really want to do small talk, but you know you're going to have to. But that small talk can only go on for so long. So on those first few dates, you want to make sure that you're learning stuff about her, but give yourself a shorter amount of time. And less is more, because the reality is if you show her a good time, and you cut the date short, she's going to be left wanting more of you, which is going to incentivize her to want to say yes to future dates when you ask her out, okay? But it's only if you keep it short. So for those first few dates, like the first and second date at the very least, I'd say don't go any longer than an hour. Like plan a coffee meetup, plan a restaurant meetup, plan a walk in the park, but just plan something where you can meet up and just talk to her. And that's all you focus on. Don't try to focus on trying to be with her for 4 hours or trying to figure out how you're going to get her back to your place or whatever. Just really focus on just that short amount of time, getting the most you can out of that short time, but make it shorter. That way you won't have to worry about having to drag something on when you're not that comfortable to start with. The second tip I have is to learn as much as you possibly can about the person prior to the date. This is why I advise you guys to do online dating like I do, because you're able to look at a profile, you're able to see pictures and get an idea of her lifestyle. You can read up on her bio and kind of figure out what she's into, what she's not into, what she's been through in her life. And then when you have conversations on these apps, you're able to talk a little bit more and ask questions that really delve into who she is, what her likes are, dislikes, etc. Okay? And so, by the way, I have a free training at my website you can go to. You can watch a free video training that teaches you the types of first messages to send to women that will have them wanting to respond back and actually talk to you. And that can be a really good gateway into figuring out more about her. Because what I found is for myself is that the more I knew about a person prior to dating them, the easier it was, A, to come up with conversations, and B, to feel more comfortable around them because it feels like I already know them and they're not so much of a stranger, versus me trying to do cold approaches and me trying to have friends connect me with people I never met. Those made for dates that were a lot more awkward than ones where I was able to kind of talk to the person beforehand and get to know more about them. So I highly recommend you doing online dating, or even if you have like a girl that's in your close personal group that, you kind of have seen places, but you're not quite friends yet. That's another opportunity where you at least know a little bit about the person to not feel so uncomfortable. And that could be another avenue that you could try. The third tip I have is to choose places for dates that are most comfortable for you. And I mean like familiar places, spots you've been to where you already, for example, like a restaurant where you already know the menu, you might already know the person behind the bar, or you might know the specials there. Something that's going to allow you to go into a space where you're already comfortable, you're already familiar. And then so even if this date that you're going on, if that person themselves isn't that familiar to you, at least you'll be in a surrounding that you're not going to feel awkward or not know where things are, what to do there. And when you're in a comfortable surrounding, that can make you feel less anxious because if nothing else, you know your environment. And knowing something about this date, whether it's the person or whether it's the place you're going to, can really ease the tension that you may feel as an introvert dater. Tip number 4, make sure to, on your date, ask open-ended questions to your date. And these are the kind of questions that don't require a yes or no answer, but require more depth. So for example, you wouldn't say something like, well, do you like your job? Because that's a yes or no answer. But you might say, so, I know you're a person that's in finance. Tell me what that is like. That is a more open-ended question. And the nice thing about open-ended questions are, especially when you're dealing with women, is that if it's open-ended, they will find ways to talk and talk and talk, which means you're going to have them doing more of the talking and you're going to do more of the listening. And as an introvert, you probably don't really want to talk all that much anyway. And you actually are using this as a way to be able to analyze her and research her and figure out about her. So by asking these open-ended questions and allowing her to carry the conversation, you can just kind of like sit back and listen. And then you just know to ask follow-up questions as you're doing your date. But you're really focusing, again, you're getting able to do that as a result of asking open-ended questions, which is going to allow you to go further on these dates and not have the conversation just die out, thus having you feel more and more anxious. Tip number 5, very, very important. Focus on the right now and not on the future. A big reason you're probably feeling a lot of anxiety on these dates is because you're probably doing what I used to do, which is you ask a girl on a date and then you're thinking like 5 steps into the future. Like you're not thinking about the date you're going to have tonight. You're thinking about, well, okay, if this works out, then, what's going to happen on the next date? And then, if we get into a relationship, what are her friends going to think of me because I'm an introvert, and what's she going to do? And then do we have the same likes or dislikes? And then is this going to lead down the pathway? And then what if she wants kids and I don't, blah, blah. And you're thinking of all this future stuff and you haven't even actually sat down with the girl and talked to her. So I need you to get rid of the future for right now, okay? It's good that you're thinking this could be potential, but take it step by step. Focus on the date at hand. Focus on making this date the best possible date and learning as much about her as you possibly can. And then once you've done that on that date, go home and say, okay, that was great. Now I can plan for the second date and see if that goes as good. Because what you don't want to do is put all this focus on the future, and then you're making moves accidentally that are either A, showing that you're nervous, B, showing that you're needy, or C, showing that you already think of her in a girlfriend light when she's not even there yet, which can now cause her to feel pressured into having this have to be a relationship after 1 or 2 dates. And that's where a lot of times you might end up realizing women start to kind of taper off because you're bringing all this force to like, you're bringing all this energy that says, I've already decided you're that person because I've already thought about you in a future way. And she's like, we're just on date 1 and 2, dude, like calm it down. So don't plan so far ahead. Just for right now, just focus on what's at stake in the moment that you're at with this girl and then proceed accordingly. Tip number 6, pre-plan your date exit. In keeping with the theme of you want to keep your date short, you also want to already have a way to get out of this date at the end. Not that you're trying to get away like she's a bad person, but just like you knowing how this date's going to end. You're going to know, for example, if you're at a restaurant, for example, at some point you got to ask for the check. So you just you're having a good conversation with her, you're having a nice time, and then when the waiter comes over, you say, oh yeah, let me get the check. That's a great signal for a woman that this date is about to end, okay? And it's important that this woman knows there's a definitive end to this date, because unbeknownst to you, you may think that women want to do these 3 or 4 or 5 hour dates, but really most women are understanding that this is a date just for this first date or whatever. It's supposed to just be a meetup thing. So this is really not the time to be trying to extend something out long term. And again, you actually benefit more if you keep it short because you're going to have her chomping at the bit for that second date. So in order to not fear dragging this on, try to figure out a way to get out of this at the end, whether it's having to ask for the check, whether it's you come up with a certain move or thing you're going to say like, oh man, oh, look at the time. I got to remember, or you can do it at the beginning of the date. We say, hey, this is a great time. And you kind of mention oh yeah, after this date's over, I got to go actually meet up with a friend of mine because we're working on some business deal or I'm working on some project. So, I got to be out of here by X amount of time. But you want to make sure for you that you do that. That way you won't be so nervous about having to make this thing last for a long time. Again, it does not. You don't have to have a date last 4 or 5 hours for it to be a good time. Just make sure that the time you're using is succinct. But to cure your nervousness, make sure that you already have planned out how you're going to exit out of this date. And then tip number 7, really go on this date as who you are, okay? Don't try to change yourself up. I know a lot of introverts fear the whole introvert thing and they think they got to be more extroverted or they got to tell stories about being the life of the party or they got to act a certain way to make her want to like him. But if you're doing online dating and you match with her and she agreed, or if you met her out in public somehow or at her friend's party or whatever and she agreed to go out with you, she's already kind of cool with who you are. So just kind of continue on that path. Don't think you have to do so much extra stuff or try to show off a facade of yourself that you're going to have to then try to back out of the lie from later. You don't have to do that. Again, there are women out there, a lot of women that want to date introverts. Trust me, I'm an introvert. I know. I get a lot of dates from women and they end up saying things like, I'm actually glad you're an introvert because it means that I have an excuse to stay at home. If my friends invite me out and I don't want to go, I can say, oh, my boyfriend, what is and that. But yeah, women are going to like you who you are regardless. And if they don't like you, then that just means you're not their energy and that's fine. But trust me, there are a lot of women out there that will like you for who you are. And I think that as you get more dating experience and as you're able to ask out more women and go out on more dates and able to really, you'll start to see like I did that, oh, women actually like me for who I am. And keep in mind, on these dates, it's just you and her. And if you're showing off your best self and your authentic self, she's going to feel that, gravitate towards that, and ultimately want to go out with you. So just to recap the 7 quick tips here. Tip number 1, you want to plan shorter dates. Tip number 2, you want to learn as much about the person as you possibly can prior to the date. Tip number 3, you want to choose places for dates that are the most comfortable for you. Tip number 4, you want to ask open-ended questions that require longer answers. Tip number 5, focus on the now and not planning a big old future with her for the moment, okay? Tip number 6, pre-plan your dating exit. And tip number 7, go as you are and do not try to be something else that you are not. If you follow these tips, ideally, you'll start to find your anxiety going down. You'll start to feel actually happy about going on these dates, and you'll ultimately be more comfortable when you are going out with a woman for the first time. Now that you've heard from me, I'd like to hear from you. What are some other ways you can think of to be more comfortable around women? If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to leave a comment down below or write me at HarryWilmington@gmail.com. Are you ready to learn killer icebreakers that attract women on dating apps? Go to introvertdatingsuccess.com right now to watch my free video training, How to Get Attractive, Feminine, Emotionally Stable Women Dying to Respond to Your First Messages on Dating Apps Without Using Sleazy Pickup Lines, which will give you the key secrets to sparking attraction and conversations with women online the smart way. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment on this episode and catch new episodes 7 days a week right here on YouTube and wherever podcasts can be found. In the meantime, be sure to go back and check out some of my older episodes so you too can learn how to date as an introvert while still getting your precious alone time. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next show. I'm out. Peace.